Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Data Talks with Lauren, where we talk about emerging trends in the data world to enable people to stay informed. Now today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is business intelligence architecture. We've seen the applications of BI in season 1, but now today we are going to talk about the architecture, that is the different environments that are involved in this business intelligence architecture, then the tools and technologies used in the environments, and also the processes involved in each of these environments. At the end of this session, you'll also be able to learn about ETL, which is extract, transform, and load. That is a tool that enables movement of data from all these environments, and you'll also understand the deployment process. Now, with me today is a group of gentlemen who are very good friends of mine, and we're going to discuss that. So at this point, I'd like to introduce my panel, and I'll start with my right.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting us to the second session of Data Talks. And my name is Kennedy Kwambai. I'm a business intelligence developer in Save the Children.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren, and I'm happy to be here. So my name is John Adienolai, and I'm a developer, BI developer at Pathways International.
Thank you very much, Lauren. My name is Benjamin. I'm an experienced data engineer working for...
My name is Barry Okwaro. I'm a solutions developer, business intelligence, Save the Children, UK.
Alright, gentlemen, karibuni sana, so we can get started on it. Maybe let me start with a question in regards to the different types of environments that exist in a business intelligence architecture. Benji, you can answer that.
Well, in a business environment, there are various, or rather, in a business intelligence ecosystem, there are various environments that are involved.
Yeah.
It's debatable based on how you would want the architecture to be, but the best common practice or the preferred one will be from source to landing, then staging, and then production.
Okay.
So maybe would you want me to dig deeper on that, or we can revisit that later?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and what is the essence of having all these environments, Kaka? Yemi?
Okay, that's interesting because it helps also in troubleshooting. When we have these stages, sectionized, it helps us to know the flow of where we are getting things wrong and how to track the flow of the data from one point to the other. So, for instance, we have a situation where you just want to validate as development, so it can be really tedious to do that. But you can confirm that by the time I'm moving the data from the source and it's getting to the landing, you can do some kind of verification at that point, and you know if you're picking the right, data or not. So you can quickly go for that. So these are one of the benefits that we have.
Okay. All right. So let's get started with the sourcing environment. What happens there, Ken?
In the BI architecture, first of all, you need to understand how many data sources you have. It might be different types of systems. It can be flat files, Excel, CSVs. It can be a platform where they're just storing data. So you try and analyze all those data sources and look at in a way that if they're connectors. Sometimes you'll find that there's a data source that you need that's being hosted by a third party. So you have to find a way of how you're going to connect to that data source. If it's within your premise or within your access, then you have to identify all of them and then push them all to the staging environment.
Okay.
So it's just a replica of the data source that you're putting on the staging environment, so that you can play around from there going forward.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I've actually an example to do with that. The terminals. When we were talking about the banking tool that has data in a different format and has to be converted.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's correct. And I feel even the best person to talk about this is Barry, because he has dealt with that kind of data source components in a way that you have to kind of create a connector, it's an API, it can be any kind of connector you can think of, it can be a third party.
Barry, you want to add something?
Yeah, so speaking of sourcing data, of course, like Ken said, the data sits in different places. Let's say you are working with different solutions. For example, you might work with QuickBooks, which are based online, integration with databases like SQL servers.
Yes.
But there's different ways of sourcing that data. So, for example, we might have internal data. We might also have external data. But now, with the external data, like Ken says, you see, they have different types of businesses that they have their IT policies, and some would allow you to connect directly. So some will give you an API. Some will just write queries and give you just permissions and logins. Yeah, right. Yeah, but you need to, if you're working with the different types of clients and types of systems, you need to have different types of skills, like thinking. The skills of sourcing data from, like you need to know different ways of where you can source data. For example, using ETL directly, or using APIs, or using software tools like Python and stuff like that, right?
Okay. All right, so we can move on to landing. Benji, you want to take it away?
Okay, so you want me to expand on what
Landing environment.
Exactly. So this is the first initial environment whereby you place your data from the source, as Ken just talked about.
Yeah.
And it's good to note also, you don't pick all the data from the source systems as is and place it in landing. You only pick that which is relevant.
Yes.
So in this environment, nothing really changes,
Yeah.
but maybe in a table with maybe close to 50 columns,
Yes.
because you can even meet big columns to do with 100 and all that. You know, from a transactional based system, and then you're bringing it to staging for the purpose of analytics or preparation for that. It's good that you only get the relevant columns. So for instance, if you're dealing with a customer's table, you wouldn't want to pick everything as is in the transaction table, but pick that which is relevant. And so the reason why you pick it that way is, my friend said, Yemi, is because first of all you want to have initial point of validation.
Yes.
So that if maybe something is not wrong in the next stage, you can always go back and check whether first you got the raw data correctly.
Yes.
So the first thing about landing is for the purpose of validation, and going back to maybe check if everything that you needed is there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can find maybe you're in a different stage, let's say staging or maybe production,
Yes.
and a new need arises whereby you don't have maybe a specific column which you never picked the first time. So you'll have again to go back, include it,
Yes.
so that you'll be able to capture that.
Okay.
Yes.
I can add on that.
Yes.
Now when you're doing the staging, you see when you are doing BI, you have an end goal, right?
Yes.
So you have sat down with the stakeholders, you know, the kind of reports you want to pull and those kind of things. So when you're developing staging, you are looking at the requirement documents and pulling the data that's expected, not just pulling anything from the sources.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And actually, Barry.
Sorry, if I can add on.
Sure.
One of the things, like, I might be of different opinion from what Benji is saying. Sometimes I feel like you need to pull everything from the source to the staging. Because, like I said initially, we want a copy of what we have in the data source, right? From there, then, or even initially, you can even start talking with, for example, if you don't have like a subject matter expert for that system, they can tell you, you don't need this, you need this. There's some elements within the database that are just useful within the database, but not for the user. So then you can remove that, those columns. But it's key to have somebody who understands that system so that they can tell you what you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also to add to what Ken is saying, actually, one would say that if you pull everything, and again it supports your second point that says, should they need other aspects that was not listed initially, because there is always change, you know.
Always change.
So if we have picked few out of from the source system, it might be difficult again because you have to rewrite your ETL, you have to update so many things. So if you had already pulled as much as you can, like a replica of that system, especially in a situation where we don't have someone to lead you. And in most cases, you see in our real projects, there's no data dictionary. It's you to source this thing yourself. So you pull in everything and then you move along with it.
Okay.
And also maybe from a different angle, you would also check from a point of resources that are there.
True.
So, in my case, well, it's a good practice to pick everything, but again, do we have the storage? So, why would I pick extra data that I don't need, and maybe because of performance issues and all that?
Yeah.
Then such are the things that you also need to check. But also, it's good to do that because also remember,
Yeah.
we are trying to consume a transactional source system.
Yes.
It doesn't mean this system will never change. Even after picking everything, something else will change in the future, and it has to be